Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Alicia Branham, author, speaker, coach, and founder of Brand Marketing, and this is the Alicia Branham Podcast. Listen, we're going to talk about why sales teams hate marketing and how you can fix it. You know, marketing has become a really dirty word, and I don't think people say that directly, but you feel it. You feel it in the resistance. You feel it in the tone when someone says, yeah, marketing handles that. Like it's some separate thing. Like it's optional. Like it's not tied to revenue. And what's wild about that is sales and marketing should never, ever be separated, ever. They should be working together every single day. They should be aligned on goals. They should be speaking the same language. But in so many organizations, especially the ones that I work in, they're operating in silos. Sales is over here doing real work while marketing's over there doing something, right? And leadership often lets that happen. So sales teams don't hate marketing because they're stubborn or resistant to change. They hate marketing because it often feels disconnected from reality, their reality. If you're in sales, you're out in the field, right? You're meeting people, you're on job sites, you're solving problems face to face. And when marketing content does not reflect your reality, it feels useless to you, right? That's where the resentment starts. Somewhere along the way, marketing got reduced to social media or just posting something. And posting something kind of feels pointless if you don't understand why. And I hear it all the time. I don't want to be online. I'm not a content creator. That's not how I want to sell. And I get it. I really do. But here's the problem. Marketing is no longer optional. Visibility is no longer optional. Brand presence is no longer optional. You don't get to opt out of how people perceive your business. And platforms like LinkedIn, whether people love it or hate it, are business credibility platforms, period. This isn't Facebook. This isn't politics. This isn't opinions. This is reputation. And yet I've had clients tell me they can't wait to delete LinkedIn and throw their phones away in the trash when they retire. And every time I hear that, I think that mindset is exactly why there's a disconnect here. Because this isn't about you retiring. This is about who replaces you. This is about the next generation of sales professionals, the next generation of buyers, the next generation of leadership. You know what? They expect businesses to be visible. They expect brands to tell their story. They expect transparency. If your business has no presence online, you don't exist to them. And that is not marketing fluff, friends. That's reality. Another massive issue, and this one does not get talked about enough, honestly, is the skills gap. A lot of sales professionals generally don't know how to take photos, document their work, or share content in any meaningful way, or share it with marketing. And listen, that is not a failure. It's a training issue. But honestly, instead of saying, hey, I don't know how to do this, they let ego get in the way, right? Nobody wants to feel behind. Nobody wants to look dumb. Especially people who have been successful for decades, right? So instead of learning, they disengage. And then marketing, they feel that disengagement, right? So they start guessing what you do. They start creating content without getting any real filled input. And then sales sees it and says, that's exactly why marketing doesn't work. Did you contribute? And then leadership lets that cycle continue. Here's the truth. Sales is sitting on the most valuable content a company could ever have. Job site photos, customer conversations, wins, installation shots, the relationships they have. That's the brand. That's the story. But if there is no system and more importantly, no culture around sharing it, it dies in the field. Let me tell you something I've done for years to pull real information out of sales teams, okay? In the industrial space, one thing I know for certain is this. Sales teams are a wealth of information. They are sitting on gold, but you have to intentionally draw it out of them. What I've done historically is I've set up quarterly meetings with the specific salespeople at a company, one-on-one conversations at the end of their day, no big agenda, just time carved out where I can ask them real thoughtful questions like, hey, who's your favorite manufacturer right now and why? What products do you really like? And it's that why that tells me everything I need to know. I remember one particular conversation with a sales rep named Nick down in South Texas, and I asked him who his favorite manufacturer was, and without hesitation, he said it was his nozzle manufacturer. So I asked him why, and he lit up. He said it was all about the customization. He told me about walking into a coffee manufacturing plant and asking the plant manager what issues they were having inside that plant. They mentioned they had these 2 large tanks that had to be shut down and cleaned every 2 months due to buildup on the spray nozzles in the tank. So if you're in manufacturing, you already know what that means, downtime. And downtime's expensive, right? No one can afford that. So Nick went back to his nozzle manufacturer and explained the problem. Well, instead of offering a standard product, they customized an actual solution. They created a specific hood with a material that went on top of it that prevented the buildup on top of this nozzle. And what that result was, instead of having to shut down those tanks every 2 months, that plant had to shut down twice a year. Think about that. That's not just product sales, man. That is operational efficiency. That's real savings. That's a massive value to that manufacturer. And you better believe that that plant manager became a customer for life. What stuck with me wasn't the solution. It was Nick's passion when he told me that story. He was proud of it. He knew the impact. He understood the value he had brought to that company. And you know what the part that matters? I still remember that story 7 years later. 7 years later. How many of your salespeople are walking around with stories like that? Stories that show problem solving, stories that show value, stories that show innovation, stories that demonstrate exactly why your company matters. And yet those stories never make it to marketing. They never make it to your website. They never make it to LinkedIn. They never even make it into a case study. They just live in someone's head. That's the disconnect, people. Because those stories, that's your brand. So let's talk about how you're actually going to fix this, right? Because fixing it doesn't start with marketing tactics. It starts with leadership. Leadership has to stop treating marketing like it's an accessory. Marketing is not support. It's not optional. It's not something you get to later. Marketing is how your business survives long term. Leaders have to lead by example. That means being visible. That means participating. That means learning alongside their teams, even if they're uncomfortable. If leadership doesn't care, no one else will. Listen, the second fix is education without shame. Social selling needs to be reframed. This is not about turning sales reps into influencers. It's not about vanity metrics. It's about staying relevant, man. Social selling is simply relationship building at scale. It's showing up consistently. It's being visible to people who already know you and people who don't know you yet, right? And that needs to be taught, not at once, not in an hour training, but continuously. This is where staff meetings come in. Brand building should be a regular topic of discussion, not a throwaway agenda item. Listen, ask your sales teams what they're seeing, what customers are saying, what objections keep coming up. Marketing should be listening and learning, not dictating. Listen, performance reviews matter as well. If brand participation matters, it should be discussed, not as a punishment, but as growth. Hey, how are you contributing to the visibility of our brand? How are you supporting the long-term health of our business, right? Those questions change culture. And then you reward the behavior you want to see. Recognition matters. Visibility matters. Acknowledgement matters. You don't change culture through memos. You change culture through reinforcement. At the end of the day, this isn't about sales versus marketing. It's about building a brand that outlives the people that currently are in those seats. Because salespeople are going to retire, leadership is going to change, markets are going to shift, but the brand should remain. And when sales and marketing are working together, when leadership creates a space for learning, visibility, and alignment, something powerful can happen. The business becomes stronger. The brand becomes trusted, and the next generation actually wants to be a part of it. That's how you fix it. Listen, if something in this episode hit close to home, that's not an accident. Follow me and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss the next episode. And please share it with someone who needs to hear this. Listen, I'll see you on the next episode of the Alicia Branham Podcast.